fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
No! People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
Alright guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. We are back for fights now in 2023. Had a pretty good year betting and making picks with 2022, and let's keep it rolling. So, what's up, dude?
Oh, what's going on, my guy? Excited to get back in the swing of things?
Right, it's been a boring month. Football's slowed down a little bit. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Okay, to start off the year, we have Priscilla Cachoeira versus Sijara Eubanks. You know, it's not a horrible fight, but it's also not the highest level of fight. Priscilla Cachoeira actually has some entertaining skills. I think she can actually get knockouts and stuff. Sijara Eubanks, on the other hand, not quite as entertaining, but we're taking Priscilla Cachoeira here. I think that she's going to find a knockout, and I think it's going to be through wearing down her opponent in Sijara. I think that if you've watched her fight versus Eon Kim, she really just fought for that final round. I think it comes down to it. She can rain the elbows down, make Sijara maybe cover up, and eat a bunch of shots. Eubanks has been pretty mid her whole time in the UFC. She's actually had some decent opponents like Melissa Gatto. At least Reed doesn't have a ground game, so that win doesn't even hardly count. But there was a chance Eubanks could just lay on top of her. Not much to really think about for this fight. Pretty straightforward in my eyes. Zombie Girl goes into zombie mode and kills Sijara.
Yeah, and she looks for the finish too. So if you look at her record in the UFC, three out of the four of her wins are by finish. So you're liking her to get that finish.
And if you're talking about age and where people sit at and who's on the climb, I'd say Cachoeira's on the climb and Eubanks is on the fall. 30, almost 38 years old, kind of a red flag for the sport, but she probably wants a quick paycheck. Yeah, Cachoeira KO round 3. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jimmy Flick versus Charles Johnson. I'm taking Charles Johnson straight up. There was a big line movement on this fight. I think it started at minus 125 for Charles Johnson from sources I've seen. I didn't get to get that line or anything. Now at minus 400, 500 range. And I don't know how this fight was ever a pick'em. If you just look at the stylistic matchups of 125, Jimmy Flick, he's mainly just a jiu-jitsu guy, and in 125, you need to be able to wrestle, have jiu-jitsu, and strike, and I think Charles Johnson has the advantage in two of those. I think he can get up from the wrestling, and he's going to be able to easily outstrike Jimmy Flick, I feel like, on the feet. Flick has never looked too great on the feet, but he is not a bad fighter, but was getting actually pieced up by Cody Durden pretty good in that fight before the Flying Triangle comeback victory. But again, very good jiu-jitsu, but you don't really see Charles Johnson get held down as you kind of watch that Makayev fight where he got taken down, sure, like 10 times, but it was 2-second takedowns. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Flick, and his losses too, he's kill or be killed. Like, he's getting finished in pretty much all of his losses. And then for Charles Johnson, I think some people are kind of influenced by his last fight against Samagulov, where they probably thought he lost that fight and could be going with Jimmy Flick because of that. But I think Flick being off for 2 years, it's not really gonna. I think he'll come out rusty, and I think Johnson will find a finish.
Zumagulov too in that fight. I mean, Zumagulov. If he fought Flick, I would pick Zumagulov. I mean, he's way more twitchy. Flick's on a break here. His last fight was almost 2 years ago. But this is a really tough fight to come back into the sport for, and especially at 125, there's some fast athletes, and I'm gonna say knockout round 2 for Johnson. Strings a couple punches together, picks up the volume. Last fight, he's a little bit slower on the volume. But against less of a talented striker, probably picks apart Jimmy here. Okay, for the next fight, we have Daniel Argueta versus Isaac Dulgarian. I'm going with Isaac Dulgarian as an underdog in this matchup. I think he's just going to be the better wrestler in this fight. Daniel Argueta seems to just kind of rely on his size and strength in order to wrestle people down, because he's got like a really wide frame, really short and stocky. But Dulgarian's I think he was a good high school wrestler, which then I saw he went to Notre Dame for wrestling. Usually a pretty good sign that he's going to be the better wrestler in this matchup. Although I think he might be slightly not smaller, but like not as filled out in size, not as heavy. But Argueta doesn't impress me on the feet. You watch the Ricky Tercios fight from The Ultimate Fighter. Didn't do that well on the feet there. Missed a lot of punches, and Ricky's really hittable. The Damon Jackson fight left his back out the whole entire time. Sure, he had an okay third round, but Damon's legs were destroyed from holding a body lock for 10 minutes straight. Dulgarian, the big red flag, doesn't have a lot of film on him. He gets every single one of his wins has been a first round finish. Something I like about him, though, moves his way into full mount really fast, and once he's there, he's doing real damage. Doesn't really waste that much time. Another really good sign I've seen from him, just like Muhammad Makayev kind of does, when he fought Charles Johnson, Muhammad Makayev kind of could roll his hips over when there was like takedown defense by using a somersault or a roll. Dulgarian has kind of used some of those same techniques, which to me is like a high level, like a sign of high level wrestling, and I just think that he will be able to get this fight to the ground. A little bit nervous for how this one could play out, because Argueta could get tired by round 2, but so could Dulgarian with the wrestling. I'm going to say the finish streak continues, but not in the first round. The second round, I think Dulgarian will tire out Argueta a little bit and find a finish on the ground.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Dulgarian's gas tank holds up. Yeah, like you said, all finishes are in the first round. The wrestlers tend to have a good gas tank, so we like him. What'd you say, second round?
Yeah, second round. I mean, the hard part, too, is, like, you know, you're passing guard on a bunch of people who probably don't have the best jiu-jitsu out in these other fights, but, like, at the same time, I don't think Daniel Argueta's looked too special. I'm really surprised he's that much of a favorite, because he doesn't look like anything special, but I think he has a little bit more name value just from being on Tough, and that's kind of where that comes in. But yeah.
Yeah, I like the shot on the underdog.
Yeah, Dulgarian by KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Allan Nascimento versus Carlos Hernandez. We're taking Allan Nascimento in this matchup. I'm going to take him by submission pretty quickly here. These shootbox guys, I mean, training with Oliveira, Daniel Santos, these guys all just have a wild style, especially when it comes to the ground. And versus Jake Hadley, he reversed some positions, held him down. I mean, he's a really big
yeah, he had really good top control in that fight against Hadley.
Right, and Hadley has like this really strange guard, and I think that Nascimento does a good job of maintaining position. If you watch the Tadir fight, he's throwing up crazy submissions all the time, fishing for arm bars. I think he's just on a higher level than what Hernandez can offer here. Hernandez fought, Aldemirano in his, I think it was first UFC fight, yeah. And, I mean, he didn't look too impressive. He kind of has slow hands. He doesn't have a full filled out frame for 125. Looks pretty drained. But overall, I just don't really see him knocking out Nascimento on the feet here. I don't think he looks good enough to do that. Aldemirano's already pretty hittable. And, yeah, I think that this one's a locked up submission. I think Nascimento gets him down, subs him. And trains with a high level camp there with some action. I'm going to say submission round 1. Maybe pulls a guillotine on him. You like
like
that?
it.
Yeah. For the next fight, we have Mateus Mendonca versus Javid Basharat. We're taking Javid Basharat. I think that this dude is a legit contender coming up in this division. Definitely one of the top prospects. Does everything right. Has the ground game, the fight IQ, the striking to compete with people. He's not just heavy-handed. He's in and out of range, using his footwork to set up strikes. Mendonca looked pretty good on the Contender Series, but also had a really strange knockout. Put the right hand kind of like on the ear of his opponent. It was similar to the Dustin Jacoby Daun Young knockout. It was just kind of a weird headshot that kind of put the guy down and led to a knockout. Basharat, though, is going to be really hard to knock out here. Got really good defense. My prediction for this fight is a knockout for Basharat. I think that when he hits the fight to the ground, it's either going to be submission or ground and pound, and I think that Mendonca can probably defend the submissions. Again, another shootbox fighter here with Charlie Olives and some other of the crew. I think Basharat can really lay in some heavy hands. I mean, you watched his brother on the Contender Series. Forgetting his first name right now. Fareed. He won by a ton of ground and pound, and these guys didn't really take advantage of positions. And it's a hard fight here for a young guy with Mateus. 23 versus 27. Took a 2-year break before the Contender Series fight as well. So this is a giant step up in a fight, and I like Basharat by a knockout here.
Yeah, this seems like a little more favorable matchup for Basharat compared to his last fight.
Even last
couple fights. Yeah. Those were veterans, so
I mean,
hopefully he keeps the win streak alive and keeps the momentum going.
I mean, Mendoza's has a pretty good record and all, but Tony Gravely kind of has a legit name in that division, and Trevin Jones has also fought a lot of veterans, so those are two pretty good wins. But anyway, Basharat KO round 1. Prediction, ground and pound. Okay, in this fight, we have Mateusz Rebeki versus Nick Fiore. We're taking Mateusz Rebeki. Looked very good in this Contender Series fight. Really dense grappler. Gonna have a strength advantage coming in this, although he's a little bit smaller of a guy. Striking, it's looking okay, although he does a lot of what Andre Petrosky does, which is just kind of throwing the left hand every single time he gets a chance to. But he does lead it up with his right occasionally. But overall, I think this is a higher level grappler getting in on Nick Fiore. Fiore, kind of more of a jiu-jitsu guy. Couldn't find amazing tape on him. Mostly just has really basic stand-up, nothing crazy going on. And then ground game kind of is where his advantages come in the regional scene. But I like Rebeki probably to get I was thinking decision, but I think I'm gonna say knockout. I think that his time here in the UFC probably, you're minus 600 favorite coming in. You're probably gonna have some juice going in this fight, and be looking for a finish. And if he's holding the dude down, dropping left hands on him, he'll probably find a knockout against a younger guy. But yeah. Should be a pretty straightforward fight. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, Rebeki, that is, made quick work in his Contender Series fight. He immediately wanted to get the fight to the ground, and he also ate a pretty big head kick, so
right.
He somewhat has a chin, I guess, I would say, and I like him to find the finish here. Okay,
Rebeki, KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Claudio Ribeiro. I'm picking Alhassan in this fight. Ribeiro, his Contender Series knockout was very weird. His opponent spun into a hook / uppercut that just put the dude down right away. Tried doing a spinning back fist or some shit. And, you know, it was just kind of a weird knockout. I think it might influence people's opinions more than it probably should. Probably won't be something that happens in this fight. At least that style. And what I've seen from his film is he's pretty one-dimensional. He's a brawler. And just goes right hand, left hand, and there's not much variation within that. I mean, it's kind of that same style. And Abdul is similar. In a lot of ways, he's similar. I mean, particular knockout, because obviously Abdul kind of is kill or be killed type of guy. In his last fight versus Buckley, very debatably won that fight with his wrestling in the third round and his damage in the first round, but it's a close fight. What I really like about him, that head kick knockout with the Tirico, he sets that head kick up really well. He moves his opponent to his right where he starts that right high kick. He tried doing the same thing against Buckley, but actually slipped on one of the kicks. This dude, he's huge as well. He looked way bigger than Buckley. I think he cuts a shit ton of weight to come down to this. Last bad loss I can remember was the Chaos Williams one, but when he's in there, he's swinging and banging. He's got a high guard, which could block a lot of shots from Ribeiro, and then lead to him finding a highlight counter finish. But overall, I just think that Abdul maybe will shorten up his strikes a little bit more. He likes to wind up, but that's what a KO guy likes to do. But yeah, I like probably round one for this. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Abdul, he's a veteran in this game, and I think his experience fighting top level, I wouldn't say top level guys, but
they're pretty good.
Established, yeah, I guess established guys. I think that'll pay dividends to him, and I like him to get this win.
I just remember when he fought Munir Lazez, he threw everything at him and gassed himself out, and then kind of Lazez took over. But yeah, some of these, I mean, people can have their opinions about Buckley. He's still a pretty quality fighter for this division. But
yeah, he is.
Also, he took down Buckley a couple times. I mean, we haven't seen Ribeiro on the ground that much. And in that third round, Alhassan, I mean, he gets taken down pretty easily. He doesn't have good takedown defense, but he used some trips to get Buckley down, and he's super heavy on top. And, you know, a fight could just be over just from that. But if I like anything from this, it's probably the fight to not go the distance. I don't know if I actually trust Alhassan that much. Alhassan KO round one. Okay, for the next fight, we have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Raoni Barcelos. This is the fight I'm most excited for on this card. I'm taking Umar Nurmagomedov by decision. Umar, man, this is a tough matchup, and the odds are a little bit confusing in my eyes because we haven't seen Umar really fight somebody with the striking and grappling ability of Barcelos. I mean, this fight, I'd be kind of surprised if this one was done on the ground. I don't think that Umar's been able to hold him down that easily. And man, I watched a ton of tape for this one. I think a great fight to kind of compare things to is that on Barcelos' side, I watched his Said Nurmagomedov fight, and I was thinking, you know, Said holds a very similar style to Umar. He likes to spin, or not spin. I mean, Umar doesn't really like to spin, but he likes to use kicks, and he's unorthodox. And Barcelos really dealt well with Said's spinning techniques, and but he mostly went to his takedowns late in the fight to win over rounds. And I think on this case, you can't get that win off of that. And in other instances, he's been kind of an inactive striker at times. The Timur Valiev fight had a really slow first round, a higher volume second round, then third round was moderate. But he can be like super high volume to no volume, and there's kind of a weird swing with that. Umar, though, on the outside, I have a hard time seeing Raoni just coming into space and picking him apart. because Umar moves so well, and whenever they're going to get close to each other, I think it's going to be a clinch-up, and Umar's probably going to either dump him to the ground or they'll neutralize the position until he's back out at space. If this fight was in a bigger cage, it would favor Umar even more. But at 26 years old and improving every single fight, it's hard to pick against a Nurmagomedov, and especially the mixed martial arts skills of Umar. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously picking Umar, but I mean, I think this is like the closest odds he's had in a while, which is minus 500, but still, I mean, in his last couple of fights, he was minus like 900, 950,
right,
2,000. So, I think anytime you see a Nurmagomedov, they're gonna give you a lot of juice.
Right.
So,
I think that it's the same thing with the it's the Hamzat effect. He has the same effect, and I think what I also like about Umar here is that when he fought Kakramanov, and like I went back to rewatch that fight, he hardly even had his style down. He didn't really kick a lot. He was more clinching up and winning those exchanges. But Umar's really refined this kicking style, and it's very hard to replicate for other fighters, I think. And I mean, he's just looked better every single fight. Sergey Morozov fight definitely got tested in his grappling a little bit there. Got Morozov to the ground, but didn't really hold him down. He also just has a really good double leg entry, which then he can just switch over and get to the guy's back, and that's why his rear naked is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's a little more unpredictable with the kicks, and doesn't just rely on the takedown right away.
And if somebody told me that he was going to get a rear naked choked in this fight, it wouldn't surprise me. Nothing would surprise me. If he got a knockout, it wouldn't surprise me. But Barcelos, in my eyes, how stacked up this division is. I mean, I think he's like on Tapology's page, like I think it said ranked 18 or something. Well, I think that this dude could beat a lot of people up ahead of him the next 8 ranks or whatever. But I like Umar still here, but this could be a very testy fight. If you're betting the underdog, I don't blame you, but I like the over here when we get to it later this week. But Nurmagomedov by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Ketlen Vieira versus Raquel Pennington. I'm picking Ketlen Vieira by decision. Kind of been improving fight by fight, it feels like. Pennington's been around for a long time, although she's very consistent, it feels like, in her performances. Pretty easy win over Aspen Ladd, but I think Ketlen Vieira would also do pretty good there as well. And has piled up some wins here. I honestly did think that Ketlen Vieira kind of won that fight just off damage versus Holly Holm. Holly Holm kind of held up against the fence the whole time. I don't want to get into a controversy. I know people lost money on all that, but there's not a lot going on in that fight. And then a win over Miesha Tate doesn't really mean a lot. Miesha Tate doesn't really do shit. Not very phenomenal fighter. But Ketlen Vieira's hands have looked improved. This is just going to be a very close women's fight. Your run-of-the-mill women's fight. And I think possibly Pennington could maybe take her down at times, or Vieira might just want to play jiu-jitsu on her back. And that could scare you if you're betting Vieira. But I don't know. I don't have a ton of interest, even though this is like a higher ranking fight for the women's division. But I just got Vieira by decision. What do you think?
Maybe you go fight to end in split decision. Maybe go that route.
I feel like I am pretty good at reading when that happens, but I'll have to cross-reference, how many finishes they have. I feel like Pennington hasn't had a ton of finishes lately. 3 decisions.
No, just Macy Chasson.
I feel like Vieira does have some sting in her punches, and then she also had that rear naked choke on Holly Holm, which bulged her eyes out like a kid's toy, what they squeeze on, something you get at McDonald's.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm gonna take Ketlen Vieira. Okay, for our next fight, we have Punahele Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. taking Punahele Soriano, KO round 1. Let's make it quick and easy. Kopylov, just had his win over, what's his face? The Kiriko. The Kiriko didn't look too great in that fight, had no volume, had no timing with anything he was doing. Kopylov kind of got fucked up by Duraev, even though mostly came down to the wrestling, which influenced it, and then was kind of inactive for a while. Punahele, on the other hand, he's fought some pretty decent competition in his last fights. I mean, Dalcha was a step down, but Maximov, Brennan Allen, and Dustro, it's pretty decent. I mean, Dustro can get finished here or there, but Brennan Allen, he lost that fight, got gassed in round 1 from just throwing haymakers, but he hit Brennan with some real heavy shots. He's just got an incredibly straight left that he can cover a lot of distance with, and if he touches Kopylov a couple of times with it, it's probably going to put his lights out. And I'm honestly looking at Soriano for a moneyline bet here. What are your thoughts?
I do like him at the money line. I think he was minus 165, somewhere around there.
Right.
Yeah. I just think that power will be too much for Kopylov, and I like him. Soriano to get a first round knockout.
Easy money. Okay, for this next fight, we have Dan Ige versus Damon Jackson. I'm picking Dan Ige, but this is probably the the biggest pick'em fight that I'm having trouble getting a great read on or an angle for. Dan Ige doesn't have that great of takedown defense, and Damon Jackson is going to be a way better grappler than him. Dan Ige, though, will have way better hands than him. I think, Damon Jackson just had that win with the kick to the face, knee to the face versus Sabatini, which got him the win. But if that wouldn't happen on the feet, I think he would have been outmatched. And that win over Daniel Argueta, kind of strange fight as well. Was on his back the whole time, but couldn't find a submission. But he does have a lot of good performances. I mean, you watch the fight where he fought Mirsad Bektic or whatever, and he completely made that fight super hard for him to find a submission until Damon found one himself. And EJ, on the other hand, really heavy hands for his size, and I think he's got to be better at this grappling defense. I think he was more scared in his last fight about the grappling and then got hit a lot. But if it comes down to some of the striking on the feet, I'm thinking that EJ will come back in this fight in round 3 after getting his back taken by Damon Jackson in the early rounds and him just defending. But this would be a really close fight. I think it's either Jackson by submission or EJ by knockout, and the under in this fight, under 2.5, would also be a great angle. What do you think?
I could see that, but Ige's I don't think Ige has lost by submission in his career. He's super durable, so
true.
I don't know about that. But also Sabatini, I don't believe he's ever been finished before, and Jackson got the finish there.
He's also just really lanky, which makes it hard for people to deal with him. I mean, the Korean Zombie was on EJ's back for a long ass time in their fight. He eats punches really well, EJ does, but when people get to his back, they could just be sitting there. But again, that third round, you could come back, get a win there, but very 50-50.
I think if, like you said, 50-50, if the fight stays on the feet, you favor Ige. If it's on the ground, then you favor Jackson. So, tough fight to predict, but lean towards Ige.
And if you're talking about experience and high-level fights, EJ has that edge, but Damon also has a very good record, and some impressive performances with also some questionable performances, so it's kind of hard to get a full judgment. Wouldn't blame anyone for picking Damon Jackson, though.
No, not at all.
EJ KO round 3. Okay, guys, we have arrived at the main event. Before we get into our pick, just want to say drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, who you're picking, who you're betting, what if you disagree with us, like any of our shit. Also, if you need some betting money for 2023 in this event, head over to BetUS, where they can give you a 125% deposit match on your first deposit. And if you hit the link in our description, it'll take you straight there, and you can get all that done. And now, let's get into the fight. So we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Nassourdine Imavov. Picking Imavov in this fight. Gastelum's just been on a giant break here. In his last fight versus Cannonier, kind of got tagged up a little bit too. Wasn't really winning a lot of the exchanges. I just think it's kind of weird because he's 31, but he's lost his step. And maybe it was that Izzy didn't fully prepare for him, or there's something weird going on there. But clearly hasn't looked the same since that fight. Maybe it was a lot of the damage he took in it. Imavov, on the other hand, has a great mix of mixed martial arts. Has the kicking game, the knees, elbows. I mean, he hit Buckley with some hard shots, and Buckley didn't go down. And the wrestling as well. It's going to be really hard for Kelvin to excel in one category. Maybe he wins the power side of things, but on this break, maybe he's reinvented himself. We'll see, but I got Imavov. I'm going to take my decision.
Yeah, just coming off of an injury for Gastelum. So he pulled out of the Dricus Duplessis fight. Not really sure how well he'll look, but for Imavov as well, in the Buckley fight, in the third round, he kind of gassed right a bit, but Buckley was going haywire in that third round because he knew he was down 2 rounds. So interested to see how Imavov's gas tank will hold up in this fight, but maybe he gets a early stoppage. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that Imavov, I think people are going to take a lot of judgments from that fight. Similar to how people do for someone like Carlos Ulberg. They're going to judge, their thing off one performance or one round or one moment where they might have had a little struggle. But especially in a 5-round fight, people might think that people would gas out a little bit more. I think these higher weight class main events, they almost always fight slower, and it results in them keeping their gas for more rounds. And Kelvin hasn't been in a barn burner since the Adesanya fight, so I don't really expect either person to really get tired. I think the better skill set will probably take over here. Also getting older, maturing a little bit. Imavov also probably thought that he's going to knock out Buckley no fucking problem, and that didn't happen. So
yeah, do you think he gets a finish in this fight or goes to a decision?
I think it's decision. It's Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah, I think it'll be good for him as well, just to get that 5-round experience before maybe he has a title fight.
Yeah, they're just trying to build his name up a little bit more. I feel like he's not really a household name for a lot of the MMA stuff, and he has the skill set to be, headed towards being champion. So hopefully he wins this. They set up a new UFC Paris card, and we get some more nice fights. But Imavov by decision. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Once again, head in the description for BetUS stuff. Like, subscribe, comment, bet video on Thursday or Wednesday next week, possibly. And also we'll have an NFL playoff betting video, maybe a little bit later in the week, as well, to prepare for some of those bigger betting opportunities and fun games. So, anything else you got?
You nailed it.
Okay. Peace.
Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter. I'm from the trenches. I'm built like this. The aunt down to me said I couldn't do it. The aunt said I couldn't do it.